People principle number 8, the learning principle. The learning principle says each person we meet has potential to teach us something. Or as Louis Armstrong said, there are some people that if they don't know, you can't tell them. And the question I must ask myself, do I approach people with a desire to learn from them? 3 attitudes about learning from others. Number 1, no one can teach me anything. That's an arrogant attitude. The reality is that no one is too old, too smart, or too successful to learn something new. The only thing that can come between a person and the ability to learn and improve is a bad attitude. I can remember in one of my transitions in my career of going and spending quite a bit of time before I took this leader's place, spending time with him. And one of the things that was very apparent in my first visit out to where I was going, in my first visit with him, was the fact that he was very proud of who they were, what they had accomplished. They had some success. And basically he said, the difficult thing is I have nowhere to send my staff because my staff basically knows it all. And I thought, oh my goodness, we're in real deep weeds here. And because of this attitude that no one can teach me something, he and the staff had stopped, oh my goodness, for at least 12 years, learning and growing. But I see a lot of people who basically say, nobody can teach me anything. A second attitude about learning from others is the person who says, someone can teach me everything. And that's a naive attitude. When you think that someone can teach you everything, there is major naiveness there. In fact, I would say this. Over the last 10 years, mentoring has been very big. And people, well, every day want me to be their mentor. Or people ask me every day, who is your mentor? And I tell them I don't have a mentor. I don't mean this unkindly. I've not met anybody yet that's so smart in every area and has so much wisdom in every area that they can be my mentor. Now, I have a lot of people that mentor me. I have a lot of people who really come alongside of me and help me and give me their wisdom and teach me out of their experiences. And I have probably 12 or 15 mentors, but I don't have one mentor. I think it's very naive. And I think it's not only naive, I think you set yourself up for major failure when you think one person can teach you everything. And I always worry about the mentor who thinks he can teach you everything. I want to go up and say, is anybody home? And is anybody home? Because I think part of wisdom and part of maturing is the more that we know, the more we know that we don't know. Isn't that true? When I was young, I offered advice on everything. As I've gotten older, the list has been greatly reduced, along with the humbling of the experiences of life. So the 2 attitudes, I think they're both not good ones. The arrogant attitude, no one can teach me anything, and the naive attitude, someone can teach me everything. I think they're both wrong. I think number 3 is right. Everyone can teach me something. And I think that's a teachable attitude or a spirit. In other words, every person I meet, if I search out and seek out and ask questions and really desire to understand and learn, everybody I meet has something that they can teach me. So how do you learn from others? Number 1, make learning your passion. Philip Crosby says, there's a theory of human behavior that says people subconsciously retard their own intellectual growth. They come to rely on cliches and habits. Wow. Once they reach the age of their own personal comfort with the world, they stop learning and their mind runs on idle for the rest of their days. They may progress organizationally, they may be ambitious and eager, and they may even work night and day, but they learn no more. If you desire to keep growing, you cannot sit back in a comfort zone. You need to make learning your goal. Do that and you will never run out of gas mentality. And your motivation will be strong. And don't worry about having people to teach you. Greek philosopher Plato said, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. So how do you learn from others? Make learning your passion. Number 2, value people. Value people. I can still remember as a young man an experience I had where I went to a conference to listen to 3 major speakers that I just felt would help me tremendously, and the 3 major speakers did a very good job. But they had what they called an idea exchange, where they put about 500 of us in a room, and we shared ideas. And I'll never forget, as I sat there for 2 hours writing ideas down from other people who were sitting at tables with me, I came away and I realized that day that the 3 experts that I went to hear helped me, but oh my goodness, the idea exchange was so much better for me. And I walked out of there that day and I said to myself, I have made a mistake. I place way too high value on the experts and way too little value on fellow travelers in the same journey. And it was out of that I began to just value people and value what I could learn from them. Number 3, develop relationships with growth potential. It is true that everyone has something to teach us, but that doesn't mean that anyone can teach us everything we want to learn. We've already talked about that. We need to find people who are especially likely to help us grow. Experts in our field, creative thinkers who will stretch us mentally, achievers who will inspire us to go to the next level. Learning is often the reward for spending time with remarkable people. Who they are and what they know will rub off. As Clifton and Nelson said, relationships help us define who we are and what we become. I have made it a habit in my life to every month have what I call a learning lunch. And every month I seek out people, most of whom I have never met. It may be an author of a book that's going to be in a town where I'm going to go, and I've read their book, and I'll call and ask if I can have a lunch with them. But every month I have a learning lunch, at least one. Sometimes I get 2 or 3 in, but always have one. I always set up one for sure. I mean, get that one nailed down. And in that learning lunch, I have a series of questions. I referred to in another lesson of having dinner with Jim Collins and Francis Hesselbein. I kid you not. I prepared 4 hours for that lunch. And when I went to the table, you see, most people, when they go to the table, they think they should eat food. I can eat food anywhere. I've got my questions. You eat the food, I'll ask the questions. And I asked the first question to Jim Collins. I said, would you talk to me about the value of curiosity? Because in your book, especially Good to Great, your curiosity is evident everywhere. I said, what is the value of curiosity? It took him 12 minutes to answer that question. He said, John, no one's ever asked me that question. He said, I love that question. He answered it. I went through others for him and for Francis. Every once in a while, they'd ask me a question. I'd give them a real quick, simple, stupid answer and get right back to asking them questions, because I learned a long time ago, if you're doing talking, you're not doing any learning. We're in the car, and we're going back to the hotel, and Jim Collins turns around, looks back at me. So let me talk to you a little bit more about curiosity. In another 5 minutes. And I'm just sitting there taking notes. Some of my best thinking has been done by others. It's amazing what will happen if you have those learning lunches. Number 4, identify people's uniqueness and strengths. Ralph Waldo Emerson remarked, I have never met a man who was not my superior in some particular. People grow best in the areas of their strengths, and you can learn most from another person's area of strength. So what you got to do is identify your strengths and ask the questions in their strength zone. Number 5, ask questions. Just have a learning value. The learning principle is huge. And I have watched people and realized that if you really want to develop strong relationships, ask questions and learn from people. And by the way, you create tremendous value when you're asking somebody to teach you something.